Hello, my name is the Reverend Dustin Burrow. I'm the pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I want to thank you for joining us today for Sunday, July 11th. Our sermon today is preached by one of our co-lay leaders, Judy Tucker. She's continuing the series that we're doing here for the month of July. She is looking at the Dr. Suess book, Yertle the Turtle. Again, the point of this series is to see what things in our common culture we can glean that reminds us and points us back towards the divine and for God's calling in our life. And so today, Judy will be preaching on the book Yertle the Turtle. Hear now the word of Scripture from the Gospel of St. Luke in the 18th chapter, verses 1 through 8. Then Jesus told them a parable about their need to pray always and not to lose heart. He said, "In a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for people. In that city there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, 'Grant me justice against my opponent.' For a while the judge refused. But later he said to himself, 'Though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice, so that she may not wear me out by continually coming.' And the Lord said, 'Listen to what this unjust judge says. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? I tell you, he will quickly grant justice to them. And yet, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?' For the gift of Scripture, we give thanks. Thanks be to God."
Holy God, pour out upon us your Spirit, that we might hear your word, so that your wisdom will draw us closer to you. Through Christ, the living word, we pray. Amen. Last week, Pastor Dustin gave us a closer look at Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham, and this week we will be taking a closer look at a turtle king named Yertle. Now, Yertle is the ruler of a land that is happy and full of prosperity. These are the words of Dr. Seuss in describing the land in which Yertle rules. On the faraway island of Salamasond, Yertle the turtle was king of the pond. A nice little pond. It was clean. It was neat. The water was warm. There was plenty to eat. The turtles had everything turtles might need, and they were all happy, quite happy indeed. You see, Salamasond had everything the turtles needed to live contently. It was clean, the water was warm, and they had plenty to eat. They were all happy until Yertle, their ruler, whose throne was a stone overlooking the pond, felt his kingdom was too small. He wanted to be ruler of more than just the pond, and to look down on the places beyond. He thought, if I could just sit higher, how much greater I'd be. What a king! I'd be ruler of all that I see. So exactly how did Yertle, the king, sit higher? Why, he gave a command and ordered 9 turtles to swim to his stone, and he piled them up in a 9-turtle stack, and then Yertle climbed up, and he sat on the pile. From his new view, Yertle was now the king of a cow, a mule, a horse, and more, and was so pleased that he sat on the pile of turtles all morning. But in the afternoon, Mac, the turtle at the very bottom of the stack, let out a sigh and said, "I beg your pardon, King Yertle. I've pains in my back and my shoulders and knees. How long must we stand here, your majesty, please?" But King Yertle did not care about Mac's pleas and called for even more turtle, 200 of them, and they all stepped on Mac's head as they climbed to the very top. Again, Mac called out over concern to his pains and concern for the rights of those above him even, saying, "We can't stand it. Our shells will all crack. We need food. We're starving. We quickly find out the type of ruler that Yertle is, a tyrant, an oppressive leader who is negligent to the cries and to the rights of their people. Twice now, Mac, this one little turtle has cried out for justice, not only himself, but for the turtles above him as well. He begs the king to acknowledge his pains, his suffering, and the cruelness of the situation. He asks that he and the others be allowed to eat once again and to live happily. But Yertle remains prideful, and he refuses to do the turtle's justice, and instead he holds fast to his ambitions, and he calls again for even more turtles, this time over 5,000 of them. The scripture reading today is a parable about a widow who fervently asks a judge to grant her justice against her adversary. While we're never told more about the widow's case, the text indicates that she has been requesting justice for a long time, so it must be a pressing matter. The unjust judge the widow pleads her case to has no empathy for her. He repeatedly refuses to grant her justice, for seemingly no reason other than because he could. After some time, justice is granted to the widow, but only so the judge could rid himself from her persistent pleas. Jesus continues on to juxtapose the unjust judge with God and saying that God will bring about justice for his chosen ones, and quickly. That God will bring about justice to those who cry out to him as fervently and as persistently as the widow pleaded to the judge, and will see that they are granted justice. Throughout Scripture, we find stories about widows and orphans and otherwise marginalized people and how God delivered them, and better yet, used them and worked through them to deliver justice to so many others in a similar situation. Through this, we know that our God is just. We know he listens to the cries of our hearts, and we know that God's timing is not the same as our timing. We've seen throughout history that the delivering of justice can take a lifetime or even generations. But we live in a time of instant messaging. We can place an order at a drive-thru and pick it up in less than 5 minutes, drive-thru traffic permitting. And travel time has been reduced thanks to commercial jets, which can reach speeds of up to 593 miles per hour. And travel time will be growing ever faster as commercial operations of theorized hyperloops are set to be ready for passengers in the next decade. Despite our understanding of quickly, God's quickly can range from a few seconds to a few centuries. It is so easy to find oneself disheartened when a prayer is not answered instantaneously, when an offender is set free, when disparities continue to rise in our communities, when children and otherwise innocent people become the victims of a natural disaster or become victims of a tragedy at the hands of another human. When a widow is denied a trial because she's a woman in her time, because she's poor or powerless, when all the turtles of a kingdom or people of a nation are made to starve or suffer because of the greed of the ones in power. Theologian Miguel A. de la Torre suggests that the key is not in what we should expect from God, but in how we struggle, as did the widow for justice. De la Torre likens the wait for justice to living in the empty and occasionally hopeless Holy Saturday that lies between the crucifixion of Good Friday and the resurrection of Sunday. So how do we live in the brokenness when we know the resurrection is coming? In the last verse of today's scripture, Jesus asks his disciples if the Son of Man will find faith on the earth when he returns. Faith as in fervently coming to the Lord in prayer day in and day out, knowing that your request for justice may not be filled may not be fulfilled, but in trusting that God of justice is faithful to fulfill it in his time. You see, if the judge never granted the widow justice, the scripture implies that she would have continued to seek it passionately, and she would have continued to plead with the judge day in and day out. Jesus is asking us to persevere in our prayers until he returns, until the day of justice is granted, whether we have the opportunity to witness it or not. In Dr. Suess's Yertle the Turtle, had Mac not burped and caused the tower of turtles above him to fall, I believe he would have continued to plead with the king. He would have continued to cry out regarding his pain and discomfort, his need to eat, his shell that was sure to crack. I believe that Mac would have been persistent in his struggle for justice until it was granted. Injustice is everywhere in our communities and throughout the world. The disparities of our communities are sometimes the downstream effects of greater injustices. At times, the demand for justice requires us to look deeper into the heart of the issue. Jesus engaged in the injustices of his time. He engaged with those who were ill, the tax collectors, Samaritans, and otherwise marginalized people. He did not shy away from authority. He stood up for others before the Pharisees. He took action. He advocated. And he prayed for his persecutors even while they mocked him. We, as children of God, are called to seek justice for the sake of justice, regardless of the setbacks and the hopelessness we might experience because we serve a just God. We are called to turn our fervent prayers for justice into an active hope and to engage the injustice while pleading for justice. To love one another as Jesus commands us is to seek justice for the marginalized, to pray fervently and hope, trusting that one day God, in his faithfulness, will reconcile all things through Christ Jesus. This church has continually provided for the community with our food pantry, and while praying for the children and teachers in our community, this church has provided meals to our teachers and school supplies for our students. And in recognizing the active hope and struggle for justice shared by ministries like Interfaith, this church has continued to encourage and support other ministries with their time, their gifts, and their service. However, our work is not yet done. If you had not had the chance to participate in these ministries, I encourage you to do so. And in the meantime, I encourage you to advocate, to serve, and to love as you turn your faith into an active hope and strive towards justice. Amen.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the ministry here at Christ United Methodist Church, please consider sending a check to Christ UMC at 6200 Gibson Boulevard, Southeast Albuquerque.